Good morning. We'd like to welcome everyone to the special call meeting of the Meriwether County Board of Commissioners, March 29th, 2022. We ask now if you'll silence any cell phones and electronic devices until we finish with the meeting. We would appreciate it. Our first item will be to adopt the agenda. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? It's approved. Before we get started, I need to read just a little bit about what we'll be doing today. On March 9th, 2022, the Meriwether County Board of Commissioners requested the Meriwether County Tax Commissioner to provide an annual accounting record of the operations for the period 10/1/2020 through 9/30/2021 of her office by March 22nd, 2022. As of that date, Tax Commissioner Jenkins failed to provide the requested information. The purpose of our meeting today is to provide Tax Commissioner Jenkins the opportunity to answer as to why she has not provided that report. Before we start, I want to remind everyone of some of the duties and responsibilities of the Board of Commissioners and the Tax Commissioner's Office, including how they relate to the Tax Digest and tax administration. The Board of Commission is designed as the governing authority of the county, and responsibilities include setting of the budget and millage rate and approving corrections of errors and authorizing refunds of taxes paid in error. The Board of Commission is also responsible for the overall county budget, county properties and facilities, roads, bridges, and transportation, and allocating budgets for operations of various county offices. As a constitutional officer, the Tax Commissioner is responsible for all facets of the operations of her office, including employing necessary staff to perform the duties of her office, and per OCGA 48-5-127, collect diligently and pay promptly the funds allowed by law to the Revenue Commission and County Treasurer as prescribed by law. In Meriwether County, that disbursement is twice a month per Georgia law. Each year, the Tax Commissioner is required to render an account of official actions to exhibit book, vouchers, and accounts to the Board of Commissioners. This meeting will be conducted in a professional, respectful, and orderly manner, whether or not you agree with the opinion. We will not tolerate loud outbursts or conduct that disrupts the process of the meeting. If anyone fails to follow these rules, I will call you out of order, and if it continues, I will ask that you be removed from the meeting. Only persons who have direct knowledge of the topic under discussion will be allowed to speak and must be recognized by the board prior to speaking. While the reason for the meeting is to address the failure of the Tax Commissioner to provide the requested financial information, there are other topics that need to be addressed as they impact the day-to-day operations of other county departments, exposing the county to potential legal claims and creating a trail of misinformation. We will start with reports from our staff and then questions of county staff, and then allow the Tax Commissioner Jenkins time to address each of these issues and answer the questions of the board and staff. So at this time, we'll turn it over to our staff. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you for being here today. As our chairman's already said, we're here today to ask some information about the financial reports from the Tax Commissioner Office from October 1, 2020 to September 30, 2021. And as of March the 22nd, you had not received the proper reports, even though you had requested those. And at this time, we'd like to cover with you some of the concerns we all share with the operations of that office and the issues that we have with the tax disbursements and the records provided. To address these concerns, we would like to ask our Finance Director, Mr. Bill Gregory, to answer a few questions concerning this matter. And Michelle, do you have some questions you wanted to ask? Sure. And I will chime in as well.
Mr. Gregory, at the conclusion of the FY20 audit, were there any funds unaccounted for?
No, ma'am.
That would have been the audit, Mr. Gregory, right before Ms. Jenkins took office. Is that
Correct.
correct? Okay.
Now, there was a subsequent audit performed through the period of December 22nd, which is when the previous tax commissioners left office.
And there were no findings,
No
issues?
irregularities found by the accounting firm of Abbott, Jordan, and Coons. All funds were properly accounted.
In years past, have you had any problem with the payments being made? I think they made it first.
No, so we received payment on the first of each month for the previous 2 weeks. And then on the 15th of the month, we would get a payment for the period of the 1st through the 15th. And then on the last day of the month, we get a payment for the previous 2 weeks.
And prior to 2021, did you have any problem getting those on time?
No, sir.
What about since 2021? Since 2020, starting in 2021?
Payments have been sporadic. We've never received a payment that I would consider on time.
Okay.
The payments we are receiving now are for the like a month behind.
A month.
Yeah.
Okay. Georgia law very clearly states that they're to be dispersed on the 1st and 15th or twice a month. Is that
Or twice a month.
twice a month?
Historically, we've received them on the 15th and the last day of the month.
Right. Okay.
On the
All right.
15th and the last day of the month, what is the time period for those
The
disbursements?
15th covers the 1st through the 15th. She'd close her books out by lunchtime on the 15th, and then we'd have a check before we left that day. And the same for the last day of the month.
Thank you.
Have any of those checks that you've received, even when they did come in, although they're late, do you receive any that had not been signed? And you
Yes,
had
sir.
and your staff had to run that back down and get those checks signed before they could be deposited?
That is correct.
What about checks that were post-dated? You got them on one day, but they were post-dated maybe a week or two.
I do remember a couple of occasions where that was that happened, yes, sir.
Okay. And what is the impact of getting the payments late due to our finances?
Well, currently, the cash flow, we are in a very good cash flow position, but that's not always the case.
Up until the last week or so, had we received any disbursements for our fire bond and fire district tax?
No, so the last checks we had gotten were December the 30th of
December the
2021.
And next week will be March the 30th.
Yeah, we did get 2 checks last week.
Last week, right. Okay. We, historically, and it's very similar to what the state uses, you get with the checks, you get a printout or a report that shows where those dollars are dispersed. That is to mobile homes or current taxes, delinquent taxes, et cetera. And you've got that report in years past that accompanies those disbursements.
Yes, so that it allows us to properly account for those funds in the
Okay.
budget line items that they need to go to.
And have you been getting those?
We have not received that from the current tax commission.
Okay, you've asked for that multiple times,
Yes,
is that
sir.
right? And even though you've asked for it, you have not received that report.
That is correct.
So does that cause extra work for you and your staff?
Yes, sir, it does, but the main thing is that it could possibly allow us to charge those funds to the wrong account, which has an effect on our budget process for the next year.
Right. And it would also impact the audit as well, right?
Yes, sir, it could.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's see. Have you had any had any times to have request things from the tax commissioner when she refused to turn over that information?
Oh, excuse me, in addition to the report you mentioned, there is another report that gives the tax digest for the previous 10 years that I asked for, that we've gotten from the previous tax commissioners, and have not been able to get that from her.
Let's talk back about when we were doing our digest submission, which is very important to meet those deadlines and times and be sure that we do everything correctly. Would you say it's a fair statement that your office and our office had to push to get those that information we needed to be able to get that submitted?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. And even with that, we were still late, had to ask for an extension.
That is correct, yes, sir.
And I've been told that it was the assessor's fault in emails and all that I've received from Ms. Jenkins, but in fact, that was not the case, was it?
The letter to the state requesting an extension mentioned that it was the tax assessor's fault.
In fact, the tax assessors actually completed their review and their assessments and were ready a month earlier than they were the prior year.
That is my understanding from the tax assessor's office.
In the prior year, those bills went out on time.
Correct.
And the digest was submitted. Okay. Talk about the audit for just a minute. We have an audit that's about to be done for the period October 20 through, October 1 through September 30, 2021.
Yes.
Okay. And have we been able to complete that audit?
No, sir.
Okay. And the reason that we haven't, is there a reason that we are delayed with that?
The tax commissioner's office did not supply the auditors with the information they needed in a timely manner.
Okay. And
Mr. Gregory, did we have to ask for an extension on that?
We have asked for an extension, which is, I was told by auditors, it's not a big deal, but if you look at the on the Department of Audit's website, there is a statement that says if you don't file your report in a timely manner, you are put on a list which affects other departments within the state as far as grants and those kind of things. Even though you granted an extension, you are subject, there is a possibility that you'll be denied access to grants because you didn't file on time.
Did you review the information that was sent to the Board of Commissioners by Tax Commissioner Jenkins on 3/22?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
Did those satisfy the request?
In my opinion, no, ma'am.
they were actually for a different time period, am I correct?
They should have been, for the fiscal year that just under budget, under audit right now, ending 9/30/2021.
Right. And these had December of 2022.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. Okay. And on the, back onto the audit again, if you continuously have to ask for extensions, there could come a time when they will deny that extension.
That is my understanding, yes, sir.
And the same way with the tax digest submittal too.
Yes, sir.
And the state, I think, will then penalize you monetarily if you do not get those digest in on proper time.
That is correct, yes, sir.
Based upon just your past experience with the digest and collections at this time, do you feel like we have collected and been dispersed, or the tax commissioners collected and dispersed us all the funds? How does this year compare to previous years?
I reviewed the last couple of years and compared it with this year, and it's within small margin of error.
Okay.
Collections are pretty close.
Okay. All right. Okay. What about the TAVT and the auto tags?
We have been getting those all along.
Okay. All right. And I know that we've heard a lot about the cyber attack, and how that's impacted the records. But the records that you're looking for with the audit are before the cyber attack, am I correct?
Those are the records for fiscal year ending 9/30/2021.
Okay, those should have been available, they were backed up and they should have been
Yes, sir.
available.
At the latest, when they had the system back up and running, and Manatron was able to access it. And
Okay.
I think that was mid-January, maybe.
Right.
I'm not sure.
Right. Okay. So the fact is, for no cause of cyber attack or whatever, we have been late virtually every payment that's come in. I know that one time we were, right after the first of the year, we were not receiving, last year, we were not receiving, payments. And you would say that it's been late virtually, almost every payment and disbursement has been late coming in.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, do y'all have any questions, Mr. Gregory?
I don't, Mr. Theron, Mr. Gay, I don't have a question, but I would like, at the end of this presentation, just to have some copies of the documentation.
Absolutely.
Copies of the documentation.
Sure. All the documentation is copied and available. Okay, let's see, if there's anything else. What about incomplete reports? Have you received reports that are incomplete from the tax commissioners? I know we talked earlier about checks that were not signed and had to be sent back. Are there any other reports that you've had to go back and ask for, just in your?
Some of the early documents we received, we had to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what accounts to charge those to.
Right. Did you offer yourself and your staff as assistants
Oh, yes, sir.
to the tax commissioner's office?
Yes, sir.
Did they ever take you up on that offer? Just, not that you were trying to run the office, but that you were offering to assist?
They did not.
Okay. Have you, and I think in the emails that I've read where you responded back, you were always courteous and professional. Do you feel like the emails you received from the tax commissioner's office were always courteous and respectful? Or do you feel like they were kind of attacks and questioning what you guys were doing?
Well, you've read the emails, but
Yeah.
I would say that they were not.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. Questions?
Michelle, you have anything else?
My questions are for the tax commissioner.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe we can just have her.
Anything from any of the commissioners? If not, we'll ask Ms. Jenkins if she wants to address any of this, and it will be limited to what we've talked about so far.
Madam Chair, Commissioners of the Board, I want to thank you for putting this together as far as hopefully we can work through some of the communication errors and problems that have persisted over the last year. So I hope we can move forward in a way that's professional and of mutual respect, not only in this meeting, but in all of our future dealings. I was hoping when we started the new year with Madam Chairman Neely Hadley, that we would be able to somewhat have a reset because of the past animosity that had been displayed towards myself and my office. But what I would like to let the board know is that I do have a prior meeting, I have a meeting that was scheduled about the same time as this meeting, and I've got to make that. So I can't stay here more than about another 25, maybe 30 minutes. So I hope we can get through this. So with that said, I also would like some assurances from the board. Chairman Neely Hadley, I appreciate that you did put this forward, that respect would be shared on this board. I also ask that I am not interrupted. I'm not cursed at. Ask that I'm not threatened to be removed because you don't want to hear what I have to say. I think we all have disagreements, but I think we can all handle them in a professional manner. So with that being said,
Can I ask one thing, Ms. Jenkins, before you do start? When did you make the appointment that you have this afternoon? I believe it's with the Department of Revenue?
I have an appointment with the Revenue Commissioner of Georgia. And I believe I set it up, I put in the request, let's see, I believe that was, it's been over a week. So I think I put in the request, it was either Monday or Tuesday, and then she sent me back with one time that she was available, and I took it. And that happens to be the same day, in about an hour and a half from now. So with that, where should we start? And the other thing too, just real quick, in answering these questions, I really would like to try to answer one question at a time. And so it's very difficult to respond to 7 or 8 people up here if everybody's talking at once. So let me go back and start with a couple of things that were brought up by Mr. Gregory. I don't know if he's going to be back.
He will be.
He won't be back?
No, he'll be back.
Okay. Well, so it's been said that payments have been not made on time, and they haven't been made in accordance with the statute. And I will say from the beginning, I believe y'all all remember back in January, I was hit by a car on my first day of work. That put me a little behind schedule. Then the county broke into an office, a building. I think Mr. Gay said that he had to jiggle the locks. So with that, that caused a little bit of a problem. And then I secured the locks. This board, everyone here, voted to bring a lawsuit against my office. And this was all within about 3 months of me being in office. And since then, we've had a pretty contentious relationship. But I think that we can move forward with, again.
You need to address what we talked about today as far as the records that we requested, the dates, the time frame on that. And yes, the late payments were in that, but we need to stick to what we brought up then about. The main thing is the reports that we asked for by law that we could ask for that we did not receive by the deadline we had given.
Madam Chairman, we actually have some questions that we'd like to, which will point towards those things that we're trying to find out.
Well, Chairman Neely Hatley, I feel that there were so many statements that were made that I need to correct before we can move forward, because otherwise I feel like I'm not having an opportunity to present my side. And as you said in the letter, you would like me to present the reasons behind what has happened in my office. So I think it's important to put all the reasons out there.
But the first thing is about the report we asked for. That's the main thing. That's under the code that was cited to you in the letter. Our ability to ask for those records, we had a 2-week period in there, and we did not receive those.
Chairman, am I able to respond to the statements that were made earlier? Am I going to be able to do that today?
Yes, you will. I mean, but you said you're only going to be here 20 or 25 more minutes. We're going to proceed with the meeting regardless, okay? And because there's a lot more to cover than just this. We're trying to do one area at a time, with the request being the most important and at the forefront. And we did not receive the information that we asked for.
All right, so let's go into that one. I think it's important to know that, and I haven't even gotten verification from the board yet, that what you have received and what you received, I believe it was about 24 hours after, no, it was, let's see, you requested it 5 p.m. on the 22nd. I believe you got it in the morning on the 24th. So all of those reports, I'm trying to determine if all of those reports are what you requested, because I never got anything back from that. So right now, do you have all the reports that you need?
No. The email requested reports for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2021. What we received was basically a profit and loss statement and a balance sheet for January of 2022 to date in March. That's nowhere near the same.
And since that date, what I had just said was that on the 24th, I believe, in the morning, you also received an email with a lot of reports on there, hundreds of pages of reports. Let me just get that from my bag here. All of these. So I'm asking if all of this, all of these pages, if these are the reports that you want, because I don't know if they are or not. I haven't received any feedback. And so if you need more reports, I'm more than willing to provide them. But I would like to know if what you've received is sufficient. And Mr. Gregory, I don't know if you've had a chance. It's been a couple days now, so I'm hoping you've had a chance to review these reports. Are there any additional reports that you would like?
I think what we'd like is reports that conform to the requirements of the state law. And that is for,
Those reports that she sent to us were the ones that the auditors requested to complete their audit.
right, but that's not what we're talking about here today. This
not
is
the
a
same.
report back to the commissioners. And I know, Ms. Jenkins, you had been to training class as a tax commissioner. Did they cover the necessary reports that you need to supply to the governing authority?
Mr. Gay, what is your capacity here today?
We're asking the questions on this,
Okay,
okay?
well,
All right, and we
Chairman?
have him, because he was the administrator when all this first started. So he has firsthand knowledge of this for a long period of time. So he was the administrator in the seat when all this started. So he is here at our request to help with this.
So is he going to be, asking the questions, or is it?
He may
gonna
be
the
asked
board?
questions, we may ask questions, Ms. Irizarry will be asking questions as well. Whoever, and any of the board can ask questions if they want to.
Okay, so to answer your question, Mr. Gay, I've received a lot of training, and in fact, I've undergone more training in the last year than your previous tax commissioner did in 2 years of her time in service. But one thing that they really emphasize during the training is communicating with the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
And so we don't have a specific list that says your Board of Commissioners will get a list called the expenditures by vendor summary. They don't give you all of the particular lists that are out and available. So
The state requires you turn that into them though, right?
we, Mr. Gay, we turn in the digest to the state and any other reports that the state requests. And we're always more than willing to provide more reports. But the problem is that sometimes reports might have different names, but we can usually figure out what the data is that you want to put forward, and we'll try to collect it. But quoting a statute, and let me just say that the statute that you quoted in the letter, I think originally it was written in about 1875, and the last time it was updated was in the 1980s. So with that, having a little bit more communication from the board on what you would like would really help out our office a lot. So, I think that that's something that could be done.
Okay.
And with that, so what is your next question?
Well, I mean, again, I don't think you answered my question. I said during that period of training class, and I think here's a procedure manual, there's some other training information. You mean to tell me they never talked to you about the reports that were needed?
Mr. Gay, as I've said, we don't have, they don't give us a list that says you will give these enumerated and listed reports to the Board of Commissioners.
Let him finish his question, and then you go ahead, Mr. Gay, and finish.
Okay, that's fine.
okay.
We're not going to get an
I don't
answer.
think, well, I'm reading here from the code, and it says to make the books, vouchers, accounts, and all things pertaining to the office available. I mean, I don't think that changed even with an update. And it says that the tax commissioner shall provide an annual accounting at the request of the board. And I don't think that's changed.
And Chairman, I'm just asking for what that is. As I said, we have sent you all
Well,
of
we
these
put it
reports.
in the email.
Excuse me, please don't interrupt me. But if you would, let me know if these reports are not sufficient, because if they're not, we can do more reports. But I don't think anybody on the board is aware that there are hundreds, or, yeah, I would say there's probably hundreds of reports that we can run. And if you want me to run all of them, I think that's a little unreasonable. So we're asking for a little bit more specifics on what you would like.
When we ask for a fiscal year ending September 30th, that's fiscal year ending September 3rd. That is a year's worth of what you took in, what you paid out, the breakdown, which we did not get with our payments. We did not, Mr. Gregory's already said, we never got an accounting of the breakdown. So that's, and it was very clear in the letter, September 30th, 2021. I don't know how it could get any clearer.
Chairman, on the report that I received from Mr. Gregory, as I put in the email, it had a lot of errors on it. And so when we were communicating with the auditors, and again, I think we really need to drill down on this. Do you want additional reports outside of what we prepared for the auditors? Because again, an annual accounting can be a lot of things. So the information you want, I don't know what that is. I have actually, just one sec, I have asked tax commissioners about what an annual accounting is. And the general consensus is what your board of commission would like. And so if you would like something, please let us know, because we are more than willing to provide it.
I mean, I think it's self-explanatory. An accounting of the year end is an accounting of the year end, what you did.
From
What
fiscal
money
year
you took
begin to
in,
end, you're right.
What money you dispersed, where it came from. I don't think there's a lot of question there about what that is.
I believe there is, Chairman. Again, we sent you an entire stack of paper, and I believe that's sufficient. But if it's not, please let me know, and we can get you other data. Have you had a chance to look at these reports?
We have looked at that, and Mr. Gregory has said it does not meet what we asked for, but also it was after the deadline that we requested. We requested this by a certain date, and we did not get it. And what you sent was completely different dates at about 45 minutes before the deadline was over, and it was for 2022. It wasn't even what was in the request.
Chairman, we were working with the auditors the entire day on the 22nd. And prior to that, we were working with them to determine what their needs were. Because as I said, the report that I received from Mr. Gregory was insufficient. The auditor said this was not a useful list. We found multiple errors on it, so we could not use it. We also communicated that with the office, and we didn't receive a response. And, well, let's just go on that.
Okay, well, Ms.
Madam Chair, I have a question first. Let me ask you, Mrs. Jenkins, you said you worked with the auditors on the 22nd, the date in which we had indicated we needed the report due. Prior to that, emails were sent from you stating that we would need to get an extension, and there was no indication at that point that you would be providing us with any reports. After you received the letter from the Board of Commissioners indicating that we are requesting the end of fiscal year for 2021, at that point, did you or did you not make an appointment with the auditors to come to your office only after you received the letter?
Mr. Thurgill, I don't have the timeline of when certain things were
But I think that's
asked,
pretty,
and if you would,
no,
please don't
no,
interrupt me.
because you're
I am
going,
trying
my
to
question is yes or no. Did you or did you not make an appointment to have the auditors meet with you after you received the letter from the Board of Commissioners requesting the fiscal year end report?
Chairman Neely Hadley, I'd like to ask that.
My questions are as valid as any commissioner on this board.
Commissioners can
Please
ask
answer the question.
Chairman Neely Hadley, again, I'd ask that we exercise propriety here and that everyone is treated with respect.
He just asked a question. Now, Ms. Jenkins, there was nothing wrong with that question. And I think it was a fair question because we all saw those emails in between, and there was no communication with the auditor. And beyond that, September 30th should have been done long before January. I mean, all that should have been done months before cyber attack, before anything else. I mean, Mr. Bill had the entire county stuff ready for the auditors by November.
So my question stands, Mrs. Jenkins.
Chairman Neely Hadley, I am
be asking a
asking
question.
that I have the opportunity to answer a question without being interrupted. So again, that was something that you said that we would move forward on this board with. So I am asking. that
Right,
the
but I
board
asked you a
Asked a
question.
question, you were not talking,
That is
and
the
he
second
asked a
time
question.
I was interrupted.
No, ma'am, no, ma'am.
We can go
You had
back and look
finished,
at it.
he asked a question, and then Mr. Bill said he wanted to ask something, so you can answer his question, and then Mr. Bill will ask whatever, or make his comment that he wanted to make.
Chairman, again, I'm trying to move forward, and I would just like to be able to
Just
answer
answer
a
his question.
You just interrupted me again. That's what I'm
You
saying.
tell her the question and then you can ask her.
Why
How
don't
about
you
that?
ask her,
You ask her the question then.
did she
Y'all
not
play this
make
game.
the, yes.
Did you not make the appointment with the auditor after you received the request of us with the deadline of March 22nd?
What I said before is exactly what I'm saying again, and I hope I
Total
can.
disrespect.
Is it yes or no, though, for that, Ms. Jenkins?
What I'm asking for is
It's a
just to
yes or
be
no question.
treated with respect.
Yeah, but you're not respecting
And-
them.
That's right.
Just asked a question, and
Mr.
it's,
Lee, you are a member of the board, and
I'm not a member of the board, but you're
I'm
not
sorry.
answering their question. You're
you're
stalling.
a member of the bar.
I know I am. And you're
And
stalling.
with that, I am trying to move forward in a respectful manner.
Then answer their
So
question.
that I'm not interrupted. I think that this board, what's happened in the past is that this starts going on.
Are you
and
gonna
then-
answer the question or just interrupt, just keep dodging?
Well, as it happens that I keep getting interrupted,
Answer,
so,
it's a simple question. You won't answer it. You wouldn't answer it when she asked it. You wouldn't answer it when he asked it.
and again, I've tried to answer the question.
It's a
and I
yes or no
keep
question.
getting interrupted.
Then
That's,
answer it yes or no.
I don't know how many times that.
I think we know the answer to the question.
Obviously.
So-
We're talking circles.
Okay,
Again.
okay, we know the answer to the question, that's when it
That's
was
right.
done.
Just
Okay,
move
Mr.
on.
Gregory, you want to go ahead and ask your question, or?
No, I would like an opportunity to answer the question.
Please answer it, we
But if
asked.
you, again, I would just like to be able to answer the question without being interrupted.
I retract that answer, but I still want it to remain in the minutes, so we can move on.
I'm gonna answer the question.
I retracted it, thank you.
I'm still gonna answer the
It's
question.
their meeting.
That's right.
And
I retracted
can
the,
speak, And
Mr.
I'm gonna
Gregory, go
answer a
ahead.
question that was asked about half a dozen times.
Well, But
Yes,
you did not answer it. And I mean, it was something, then I asked it and you didn't answer it. So now we're moving to Mr. Bill for his comments or questions. And I think it was regarding the auditors or whatever it was, Mr. Bill.
Chairman Neely Hadley,
Go
I
ahead,
think
Mr.
that we might need to get a talking stick because it seems like we can't actually communicate without interrupting each other. So I'd ask that if we need to take a second and step back, that we do that so that we can.
Oh,
Ms.
geez.
Jenkins, it
Bring
was a yes,
down
it was yes
the-
or no, and you're the only one continuing to go on. It was either yes or no. But if you don't want to answer that, we'll go on with Mr. Bill and he can ask his questions. That's where we're moving now. Mr.
Chairman-
Bill, go ahead.
Chairman Neely
Ms.
Hadley.
Jenkins, that's enough. Mr. Bill's going to continue. Go ahead, Mr. Bill.
I just remarked that the report listing I sent you had errors in it. I simply forwarded the list that the auditors had sent me. So if there's any errors, which I don't think there were, it would be their errors, not mine. So I'd like to correct that in the minutes. I forwarded you the list that the auditors supplied me.
Well, Mr. Gregory, I can provide you with the list. As you can see, there are a lot of errors on it. A lot of them have to do with the dates. So going back, as far as the scheduling of my appointments and meeting with the auditors, I let them know that we have been inundated. We have been crazily busy for the last 3 months because the Meriwether County IT department lost our data. We are working with customers every day. And what we find is that on Mondays, we are answering the phone and it's ringing off the hook. And so when I asked the auditors what times they had available, they said we had the week of the 21st available. And so that was the time that I set up. Now, do I remember when I sent a particular email? No, I do not. So I can't say yes or no on that question. So I've got another about 15 minutes.
I have
So
one
I
other
would like
question, Madam
to
Chair.
get through as much as we can.
Go ahead.
Tax Commissioner Jenkins, what do you interpret an accounting to be?
I'm leaving that up for the board since they are asking for it. So that's what I'm saying, is that I would like the board to let me know what they consider an accounting to be. I would think an accounting is what the auditors would would like, that's what's required by law. So if there's anything outside of that, again, our office is open. The records are there. If you would like to see them, you're more than welcome to come. We just ask that you let me know what information or what reports that you would like. I don't think that's that difficult.
I have another one too.
Why were supplemental reports received after the 22nd?
County Administrator Irizarry,
That's fine.
I don't know what your supplemental reports are. and-
I'm asking the supplemental reports that you sent after the 22nd deadline that were sent on the 24th. Why were these sent on the 24th, which was after the deadline, which was the 22nd?
Let me go back to clarify part of that question. Are you referring to all the reports that we sent after the deadline are you referring to all of that as supplemental reports?
Yes.
What does the supplemental title have?
Okay, we can call it whatever you would like to call it. But the reports that you sent on the 24th that were after the deadline, why were they sent after the deadline? Why were they not included in the information you provided on the 22nd?
We had auditors in our building that I think they left right around 5 o'clock. So we were there for a little while. And so I wanted to get that report to you. But again, I didn't receive anything back from the email I sent with that initial report. So that's why.
Had you received notice of this special called meeting prior to sending those reports on the 24th?
I don't believe I had. I did have, a deputy dropped off a report, and then I believe I received the email from you after I had the hand copy. But I don't remember about when the times were as far as let's see.
You
Yeah.
said a deputy dropped off a report? You mean a letter?
The letter that the county had put, I believe that was, I received a couple of letters from the county over the last couple of weeks. So the letter of notice about this public hearing, I hadn't received that when I made the appointment or when I accepted the appointment. No. I knew about the public hearing and I accepted the dates that the Commissioner of Revenue put forward. She only gave me one date, one time, so I accepted that. And then we had also tried to have this rescheduled, so we wouldn't have a tight time frame. But
Thank
what
you,
we
but that was
have
not my question. What
is-
my question was the supplemental reports that you sent, or the reports that you sent in the email on the 24th. Did you have knowledge of this special called meeting prior to sending those reports?
Administrator Irizarry is trying to finish answering the question.
But you were
So-
deferring to the Department of Revenue. That's not what the question is.
The timeframe involves the appointment that I had set up with the Georgia Revenue Commissioner.
That was not my question.
So why don't you go ahead and ask the
Okay,
question
my
again?
question was, the email that you sent with the reports attached on the 24th, did you have knowledge of the special called meeting prior to sending those reports on the 24th?
I'm not sure if I did or not. I don't remember.
Okay, my email to you was on the 23rd.
Okay.
I have a question, Mrs. Jenkins. Mr. Gay asked you that in training, did they teach you about different reports? And you stated that there are hundreds of reports. In your training, did they teach you that annual accounting is mandated? Did they teach you that?
Commissioner Threadgill, I don't remember everything that was brought up in a week-long course, so I can't say for sure what they said specifically on that. But what I will say is that,
So my question is, did they tell you in your training, or do you have knowledge that an annual report of accounting is mandated by your office to turn in not only to the Board of Commissioners, but to the State Revenue Department?
as I said, I don't know if that was covered in the training that I received.
Okay, that's fine. I have one more question, since you do have to go. You stated multiple times on social media that you would be taking phone payments. We receive, I know I do, quite often, phone calls from citizens complaining that they cannot get through to your office and there's no answer. If you are going to provide that service to the citizens of this county, is there a reason that your office does not answer the phones and that messages left in your office are not returned? Because that is taking up a lot of our time, and we have no control over your office, but we're receiving the complaints. So my question is there a reason that your office is not returning phone calls? And is there another reason that you are not answering the calls?
Chairman Threadgill, one thing that, or I'm sorry, not Chairman,
okay.
Commissioner Threadgill, Chairman Neely Hadley did say that we were going to stay on topic. If you would like to ask questions that are off topic, then I think we could probably schedule another time for that.
We
But
stated
again,
that
as you
can't,
said,
let me
we
interrupt,
do
Mrs.
have-
Jenkins.
No,
I'm
this
going
is
to
again
interrupt because
the
she
problem
stated that there are
that
other
we have
topics
had
that will come up too. You're avoiding my question every time I ask you one.
Chair,
As
Commissioner-
stated by the chairman in the beginning, there will be this as the primary that we have requested this meeting, but there will be additional topics brought up that fits within this category. Please answer my question.
Commissioner Threadgill. Chairman Neely Hadley was pretty,
And it's Vice
Explicit.
Chairman Threadgill. So my question is, did they provide you, or the phone calls, why are you not answering and why are you not returning those call messages if you indeed have stated that in running your office, you would receive phone payments?
Chairman
My
Threadgill,
question again, are you going to answer it? Yes or no?
as I asked before, that you ask one question at a time. But let's go ahead, I can get those two questions, and then I would like to put my closing in, since I have a limited time here. But the answer to your question is that we are trying to get our phones answered. We're having difficulty. I believe other offices in this county have had difficulty with their phone systems. Right now, I have a new person in my office that cannot use her phones because there's a password that has to be put on it. And we have gone through this crazy process that has been put in place by this board for our IT, because no one on the board wants to tell your IT director that he needs to work with our office. So
Jenkins,
we
that
are,
is not relevant to the question he asked about answering the phone.
Chairman Neely Hadley, it is, because we have someone right now that could be
It's
answering
not.
a
You have
phone
your own
call
IT
at-
people to work with you.
Again, this is another interruption, and I
interrupted
can't
her.
many.
But you're not answering the question, okay? And this is our meeting to find out the information that we need to find out. And talking about our IT, you have your own IT people to work with you now. It's been done, okay?
That is,
So-
unfortunately, that is incorrect. They have to work through the Meriwether County IT department to do a lot of things, and the phones are one of them. And that is one of the reasons why we have had such difficulty with our phone system.
Madam
So
Chair, it's
I'm
fine if she
hoping-
doesn't answer my questions. I just
Fine.
want them documented out there because they are legitimate questions. And if her avoidance is what she wants to do, that's fine. It just goes on the record.
I think Mr. Gay has a question.
So I had said I've got to leave soon, and I would
We're
like
gonna
to go
continue the
ahead
meeting,
and
though.
close out what I had come here to say, which is that we are, the Meriwether County Board of Commissioners has put an anchor through the hull of our ship because of the negligent mismanagement of our IT. And because of that, we are trying to keep up. But the fact that you were here demanding reports when we're trying to make sure that we have people that call us every day and say their mortgage payment is going to go up because their taxes aren't paid, we're trying to get this fixed, and you are taking up my time coming here with this kind of stuff.
So let me ask you a question, since I am accused of being interrupted. No, I'm going to ask.
Fred Gill,
Let me ask you this.
let me
So are
say
you
this. I am
saying,
just
no,
about
are you
done.
saying that everything that is wrong with your office is the problem and issue, and that it is our fault, the Board of Commissioners? Every issue with your office is what you were saying to me is because of this Board of Commissioners. Is that correct?
Let me ask you, Vice
No,
Chairman,
I ask you a
if
question. You
remember
deflect
saying-
everything. You
Let me ask you
deflect
this.
everything. No, it's not here for you to ask me a question. You're here for us to ask you questions.
I think
My
it's
question
a
stated is,
communication
do you
issue.
think that every issue, or are you stating that the issues in your office is due to this Board of Commissioners?
Vice Chairman Threadgill, I hope you remember, I believe it was in November.
Beverly, please just
of
make sure that's on the
2020,
minutes.
when you said, for those that didn't support me, karma was coming.
That is
and
not
it
what I
would be
said.
rough.
You know what? That is not what I said. And you need to go back and look at what you said, because you went on Facebook, which I made a recording of, and you made a false accusation against myself and Mr. Gay, and you misquoted that. And it is on video, so there is no, you can sit up here and lie all day long, Ms. Jenkins, to make yourself happy or to make your constituents happy that do support you. But I can promise you, there is no lying when it is in a video as to what was actually said.
Thank you for your time. I've got to go.
We're going to continue the meeting, though. This has been set for some time, and we will continue.
I regret that Ms. Jenkins is not staying with us, because we do have a lot of things to talk about. Some of them will answer what she's brought up recently, but I was hoping to be able to ask her whether or not she indeed was later with tax disbursement. But we've heard Mr. Mills' testimony, so that's fine. I guess at this point, we'll move forward. Michelle, you have any?
My questions were to be directed at the tax commissioner. I can still ask those questions.
Ms. Ari, we could take a break for about 10 minutes, and then we'll come back together and we'll continue this meeting with all of our information. So it's at 10 o'clock, we'll come back, okay? Go ahead and continue. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm just. Mr. Gay and Ms. Suzie, I know you have all the information there. I don't know in what order you want to continue with the process of the information that we had, but y'all can decide who goes.
Before we move off the accounting issue, I think Mr. Gregory has some other additional information I'd like to share with the.
Madam Chair, during the meeting, I reviewed the documents that the Commissioner submitted to the auditors, and in my opinion, that is not an accurate accounting of her office for the fiscal year. These are just simply account and ledger details and bank reconciliations, so the auditors can check and make sure that the check's clear and those kind of things. This is not an accounting.
Okay.
What is an accounting?
Well, it's the tax digest, receipts that she's taken in throughout the year, and the disbursements to the county and the school board and those kind of things.
That was not in there.
No.
Mr. Gregory, can you explain to the board, I know on the information received on the 22nd, there wasn't any information regarding the fire district or the fire bond. So that is one reason that it was incomplete. Are you speaking of an accounting needing to break those things down?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you explain that to the board a little more in detail?
Well, each of those has their own, the school board has their tax digest plus the bond that they have, and the county has our tax digest, fire district, fire bond. What we need is all those different funding sources, broken out.
And fire fund is separate from general fund, so that's another
Most
reason.
definitely, that's statutory, it has to be separate.
Exactly.
And fire bond and fire district on them were not addressed in what she sent to Chairman Hadley at all.
And those, each of those type properties have a tax code. They're coded in different, and they also have, in some instances, different millage rates applied. So, for example, the fire district is 2.5 and the fire bond is probably about 0.5. So all that has to be calculated difference. Without that, we really don't know where those dollars are going. Which category?
Ms. Chair, Madam Chair, to Mr. Gregory, do you have a copy of that you received the previous years? Not from this commissioner, but from the previous tax commission. Do you have one similar that we can look at, the breakdown?
We've never received an annual report.
We never,
I'm sorry.
I'm at,
We've never received any annual reports from tax commissioners.
And part of the reason for that is because Mr. Gregory received bi-weekly
Yes.
And
reports.
end of the month reports.
And these were details, so you knew exactly where the various
We
categories.
got the information all year long.
So
And we can
the
show you
report,
form.
the report that we normally received on a monthly basis, you were able to take that report
That's
on
it.
an annual basis and get it. So what I'm saying is this report right here that I've just been shown to me, you've not been receiving that. That's what you're saying?
That's correct.
So when you were receiving this, you were able to take this for the entire 12 months and get the information that you needed in order to do. Okay, just needed clarification on that. Thank you. So what you're saying is that you never did get an annual report from a previous tax commission. You just received these monthly reports that allowed you to do what you needed to do.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
And the code does say that we can ask for an annual report, though. I don't guess it was necessary previously, but since we have nothing this time, and our audit was going late, we were already behind about to ask for an extension, so we had nothing to go on. But the code says we can ask for that annual accounting.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
I have questions. Okay. My questions were to be directed at Tax Commissioner Jenkins, but I have no problem moving forward if that's what the board would like me to do. The first question is, why did Meriwether County have to ask for an extension on the tax digest? And I'll let Mr. Gay serve any kind of justification and answer for that, because that was prior to me coming to Meriwether County.
Sure. The answer for that was that simply the tax digest and the compiling of that is a responsibility of the tax commissioner. And she gets information from the various departments that are involved, being the school board, the county commissioners, and the assessor's office, to be able to compile that. There's forms and reports she has to put together before she could send that digest up for review. And she didn't get those done in time. We didn't have them ready to submit. When she asked for the extension, what she said was that it was the assessor's fault. The assessors actually finished the digest information 1 month earlier than they had the previous year, because they'd worked very hard at it. And they finished it 1 month ahead of time. So, and we met the requirements the previous year. So I'm not sure quite how it could be the assessor's fault, since they had the information ready a month earlier than they did the year before, and we didn't have any problem with that. So, the fault is not back at the tax assessor's office. The fault is the fact the tax commissioner didn't compile it. And there's a real pattern here, which we're going to see in just a little while, blaming everybody else for things that you don't do. And that's the same thing with the tax digest. We'll blame someone else for things we didn't do, even though you had it a month earlier than they had provided in the previous year.
When is the?
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Mr. Gay.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the date that was due, and how long of an extension did the county get on that?
I think it was, and I'll have to check it, I think it was August 1st, and I think we ended up getting a 30-day extension. And I do have an email from Ms. Jenkins back to the Revenue Department saying, well, we may need to have to ask for another extension. They granted the extension, but they're not going to grant you that extension every year. You have to have a reason for it. And if you don't, you'll get into a pattern with them where they will actually penalize you monetarily for having a late tax time.
So the question I have for you, did we go past the 30 days, or did we go, or
We
did we stay
did
within the
not
30?
go past the 30 days. We were able to get it in within that period of time, but it did take the extra 30-day extension to be able to get that done.
Okay, thank you so much.
The next question I have is, when is the audit due? The reason for this question is to find out if she is aware of the due date of the audit. Anytime you deal with financials, especially governmental financials, you deal with an audit. When your fiscal year ends, you're usually given a month or more to get that information, up to 3 months, to get that information together to present to the auditors. Supplemental reports are often asked for by the auditors, as well as, Mr. Gregory, you can say, you know, they ask you to do some journal entries and things of that nature that might need to be done. But for the most part, these financials should be complete and broken down correctly when the audit is due.
And you've notified, Bill, you notified people that, hey, the audits are coming, that you're gonna
Yes.
have to, yes, way ahead of time.
Set up a schedule with each of the constitutional officers in the various agencies
Okay.
as to when the auditors will come and visit them.
Out of the other constitutional officers agency, were any of them late responding?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I want to point out just for the minutes that currently there are two of the tax commissioners employees that are viewing the meeting at this time instead of working that they should be doing. I just wanted that documented for the minutes.
My next question is, who is responsible for backing up documents in the office of the tax commissioner?
The tax commissioner, and she's told us many times, that's her office. She is the responsible party for everything that comes in the records. In terms of backing it up, I think our IT department, Mr. Richmond, had backed it up just as a course of business. But that is really her responsibility. This board gave her, long before we got into the cyber attack, they authorized her to go seek bids and provide her own IT service, that she would not work with our IT department and would not even let them in the office to work on things. So ultimately, whatever's backed up needs to be her responsibility. If Bill's office, for example, didn't have a backup and lost his financials, he couldn't blame the IT department because of that, because he understands that's his responsibility to keep. Plus, if you keep the other records that are necessary and should be kept, you wouldn't have a problem with that.
Mr. Gate and Ms. Irizarry. Ms. Irizarry and I met with Tax Commissioner Jenkins, this has been back some time ago, and we talked, it was after the cyber attack, we were talking about daily backups. And she indicated they normally did it was a spreadsheet at the end of every day of what they had done. And by their own choosing, they stopped doing that because she said they didn't need it. Well, you don't need it until you need it. So when the cyber attack happened, they didn't have any of those backups that they could have. She said it was a 40-page document they had to print out each day, but had all that been printed out and kept, then all those transactions would have been there. And that was, she told Ms. Irizarry and I that herself, that they had chosen not to do that because they didn't need it.
If they had also reported on this on a monthly basis, I think this would have been the detail they would needed to have helped them as well, but they chose not to.
Well, that would have helped, but I think the other thing was actually check numbers, what accounts that are paid. I mean, the properties, it would have been a detailed information to everything that took place in that office that day.
At the conclusion of the FY20 audit, were there any funds unaccounted for? Mr. Gregory, you answered that question. However, can you elaborate on the emails that were exchanged between Tax Commissioner Jenkins and yourself regarding funds that were unaccounted for from the FY20 audit?
I don't remember any emails.
But Ms. Jenkins claimed there was $173,000 or so that was unaccounted for from the previous administration. And I think, Mr. Gregory, correct me if I'm right, on that scenario, you had, the auditors came in, the auditors matched everything in terms of the checks and their disbursements that you had received back against the records in their office, and they did not find any missing money whatsoever.
That's correct. The previous tax commissioner asked if Abbott Jordan Coon, which was our previous accounting firm, if they could come in and do a agreed upon procedures to check those items,
Right.
which is basically an audit.
Right.
And the board allowed them to come in and do that. And I've got a copy of the audit, and so does Tax Commissioner Jenkins. And they found no funds unaccounted for.
Right.
Which means there's no missing
Yeah,
funds.
yes.
My next question is to the tax commissioner, have you performed any tax sales since being in office? To our knowledge, she has not performed any of those, and I know that was the basis of some of the budget requests that she had for FY '22.
Correct.
The next one is, have you ever withheld funding to the county while dispersing to other governing bodies, i.e. school board, municipality, state, etc.? This question stems from one of her comments at a meeting where she said that she had sent funding to the school board, but we had not received any funding here at the BOC level. Have you ever provided a refund to any taxpayer in Meriwether County since you have been in office? This is just a generic question to find out if she has issued any refunds, because I believe there was some issues with her saying that she could not issue refunds. Were any of those at the request of the Board of Commissioners? Had she ever predated checks made payable to the Board of Commissioners? Have you ever post-dated checks made payable to the Board of Commissioners? And have you ever presented an unsigned check to the Board of Commissioners, which some of that was addressed? Is there any questions regarding those questions?
And there is evidence, both from finance and personal knowledge that all those things have happened. All of those things have happened. We have received checks without, and I've got emails where Ms. Doris had to go back and say, hey, you forgot to sign the check, we need to get it to you, etc. And I know that we've had checks that have been predated to look as if they were delivered on time and they were not received, because they record when they receive a check, and when they receive it, they record it. And we've got a lot of evidence of checks that were already dated. I know there was one issue where came to a meeting here and said, oh, I got some checks for you guys. It was 3 weeks later, I think, before we got those checks.
The next question is, please explain the new payment platform that removes the 3% service fee for online transactions. This question is a result of a letter that's on the back of the mobile home bills that just came out. And I'll read that sentence to y'all. A big change I'm excited about is updating our payment platform to remove the 3% service fee for online transactions and adding a pay-by-phone option, also without a 3% service fee. With the cooperation of the Meriwether County Board of Commissioners, I am hoping to have this service fee removed by the time the property tax bills go out in October of this year. To my knowledge, the Board of Commissioners have not heard anything about this. Is that correct?
We have not, and you cannot, that 3%'s got to come from somewhere. So I'm not exactly sure what the plan, but that has not been mentioned to us at all. And unless the processor is going to give up their processing fee, which I highly doubt, that 3% would have to come from the taxpayers, or, because you can't accept less than what a tax bill is. If it's $1,000, you got to collect $1,000 or it's unpaid. You can collect $997 and it's unpaid until the rest of it is done. So I'm not real sure where that comes from, other than possibly us saying we can't do it. And again, it becoming our fault that the citizens are having to pay 3% to use a credit card.
The next question is, do you have a limit on how many tags a citizen can obtain in a day? What we have been told is that there is a limit of 2 tags per day. I don't know if that's true, but I wanted some clarification on that. The next question is,
Can I say, we received I received a call, and I've got an email to this effect, concerning the tags. There was a contractor here who has a lot of vehicles, big business here in Meriwether County. They went down, stood in line forever to get a tag. When they got to the line, they were only allowed to get 2 tags at that time. Well, they had a lot of vehicles they needed to tag, so their option was to turn around and come back and stand in line again and get 2 more and do the same thing. They were very unhappy with that, and when I can share later, I got an email that I'll share with you guys that shows, when I tried to ask and just get that clarified, I was accused of sending out incorrect information, et cetera, when in fact, all I was doing was trying to help that situation. And I got more than 2 cars myself. And I don't want to have to stand in line for, twice to get 2 cars, get 3 car tags. Back to your point, it says with the cooperation of the Board of Commissioners. So really, it's, you're right, it's,
It'll just become our fault.
Right, because it sounds like she's planning on doing it if we'd help
How
her.
can we do away with 3% without
Right.
knowing where that money, because if you don't have to pay to process it, a lot more people are gonna pay by credit card. So where's that 3%
well,
gonna come
what
from?
it gets spread across is the rest of the taxpayers.
That's the
Well,
tax
I'll
rate.
say it, it just seems like a political stance.
Okay, the next question is, have you engaged in the private practice of law during the business hours of the tax commissioner's office since you took office?
And we know that she has.
Followed up by, have you ever participated in any litigation that was against the county or reflected poorly on the county since being in office?
And again, we know she has.
So she has. We have evidence of that.
Have you participated in any litigation that attempted to accuse the county of wrongdoing?
And again, we know she has.
The next question is, have you ever been sanctioned in the court of law?
We know the answer is yes. She was sanctioned on a case that her and some others tried to become involved in on the case recently, and the judge warned her of harassing witnesses and also then sanctioned her as part of that case and dismissed that group from the matter.
As an intervener.
That's right. That's
Correct.
why she was acting as tax commissioner.
There were multiple depositions done during normal business hours as well as that court case.
And we have also received, by accident, we received some documents off of a county printer that got mixed in with some other documents they turned in that are involving court cases and the legal matters that Ms. Jenkins was working on. And I know in her pre-election statement, she said she would be a full-time tax commissioner and would not do that. Yet we have evidence of that happening over and over. We also have open record requests, multiples that come to our county clerk, intervening or trying to become party to or on a water line, the road issue we had multiple times. It's been, I'm going to challenge the county on this or whatever, or gather this information on matters that we're dealing with in litigation.
Well,
So
also, prior to her taking her seat in her campaign, she stated that she would not revert to the short hours that the former tax commissioner had, that she would have that office open 8 to 5, but indeed she has kept the same hours as the previous tax commissioner.
Right.
And one question that I had for her too pertaining to was, did she have a printer in her law firm? Unfortunately, she's not here to answer that. And also, was she using the tax commissioner's office to conduct business for her private law practice, which we cannot say, yes, definitely she is. But again, as you stated, we have received in a misfax of information that was to come to our financial area. There was a full court case attached at the bottom of that. So we do know that there are actual court case documents in the tax commissioner's office by us receiving that fax.
And I think that was probably dated around August of 2021, so well into the term. And also the depositions took days to do. And again, that was on, taxpayer time.
Right.
But yet they're short in the office and can't take care of it.
And the two are still on there.
The next question is, have you ever spoken negatively about the Board of Commissioners through social media or in any community public gatherings?
And we know the answer is yes.
A follow-up question to that is, what has been said and why did you feel like this was appropriate? The next question
There's
is.
too many times
I'm sorry,
to
Terry.
answer that. I mean, it's over and over again.
Copies, though.
Right.
We do. We do.
But to hear the statements from the tax commissioner, we are the negative ones who interrupt and cause chaos in her office.
The next question is, in January of 2021, Tax Commissioner Jenkins took over the hiring process for her office. The question is, are you following federal and state laws regarding the process? Where are these items being kept? Have you consulted with an attorney regarding human resources?
You might want to say, she sent us an email stating that she was taking over all of that, like E-Verify, everything.
That's
Right.
correct, January
She
2021.
sent an email to us. Yes.
And we don't have any, she's produced to us none of those documents, right?
To my knowledge, she has not.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I have a question regarding that. So we have an HR person, so are you saying that those who are employed by her do not go through our HR process at all?
That is correct.
So do we know, so therefore we don't know who actually works in her department?
We only know by a performance, what is it called, the PAF?
Payroll change form.
Payroll change form. I know it by the acronym. A payroll change form, which sends over the person's name, information, date of beginning, and salary, as well as it being signed by Tax Commissioner Jenkins.
Commissioner Hines, constitutional officers can choose to opt into a county's personnel management system if they want.
Okay.
Tax commissioner, they do not have to. Mr.
Okay.
Hines, and my understanding is the tax commissioner is elected not to utilize the county's personnel program.
Okay,
And Commissioner Hines, when I asked a question about it, what I understood was when they were coming through our HR, everything came in late. And one of the things that was a problem was that they were not going through the E-Verify, the federal mandated E-Verify process in time. And so then through conversation, then she said she was gonna do everything.
I guess my question too, and we can elaborate on this a little later, the liability in HR that falls on the county, does that exempt this altogether?
No.
No.
Okay,
I
so the
think we would still be
liability,
responsible if E-Verify's not done and
okay,
all that.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is, do you close your office when the courthouse is open? And if so, for what reasons? We do know that the tax commissioner's office closes for federal holidays as well as extended COVID leave. And when I speak of extended COVID leave, Meriwether County Board of Commissioners has offered the 80 hours COVID leave, but anything in excess of that, employees have to take sick time or any of their leave that they might have. In the tax commissioner's office, that is not the case. The tax commissioner says that her employees will be paid for that time.
And her office has been closed 3 different times for COVID since taking office.
And of course, every office has been impacted by COVID,
Right.
but we, thankfully have not allowed that to stand in the way of what we needed to do.
Right.
And the federal holidays that she is closed are ones that are not recognized by the county.
Right.
I believe that's all for my questions.
Okay.
All right, Madam Chairman, I'll move forward with, some of the things that I have here. And I will just say that some of what I'm going to cover today, if you didn't have to live it and experience, you actually wouldn't believe what goes on and the disruptions that we have. We have an ongoing series of events that hinder the daily operation of the county, not just that office, but every office. It increases our taxpayer costs and impacts the service that we deliver to our citizens. We have, and both from a staffing standpoint and from our board, we have a good working relationship with virtually every board you have, every authority you have, every constitutional officer. Everybody works well together with the exception of one common denominator, which, seems to try to place the blame back on us. And this is not a political issue. We ask that she simply do her job and stop all the games, the threats, the constant harassment, including her Facebook rants where she, among other things, accused the commission chairman and me of lying and breaking and entering the county facility.
And let me
She said
add
that
that.
today.
Yes, she
She
did.
said that today.
And let me put this in there while you're on that subject there, and there is not a single one of us on this board that has not reached out to her to let her know. We will be more than happy to assist you in any way that we can. It doesn't matter what our personal thoughts are of anyone. It's on a professional matter. And we have all reached out. The administration has reached out to her to tell her that we are here. We will help you and your staff to get through whatever's needed. So I just wanted that part of it too.
And right after she took office, there was an unfortunate accident where she was involved in it. We went, you went, right? I went, Bill went, others, Beverly, to help her any way we could. And Deanne came over, helped us for a few days.
Right.
And we kept everything going. We had the lines shortened down, and Butch helped us. Everything was fine. When she got back, I went down to check on her, and I wasn't expecting anything to say thanks, but the comment I got was, well, next time you send me an email, send it to this email. That was the whole comment out of, us willing to help and everything. So, all we really wanted to do is to do her job and stop these ridiculous accusations that she dreams up that this clouds her shortcomings as a tax commissioner. And again, as already been mentioned, she also continues to operate her law office even today. Now, since qualifying for the position of tax commissioner, and I'll go through these time to time, and we'll answer any questions that you guys have. Of course, she's made threats and allegations against the former tax commissioner's staff, including the missing money, which the audit says it was not missing. She had a lot of the office staff leave because they really didn't want to work with her. She actually required the few remaining employees and new employees to take an oath to her, not an oath to the county or the office, but a personal oath to her, which I found was kind of odd. Prior to taking office, Ms. Jenkins came after she'd gone to this training class that didn't give her the information on how to do an audit or what she needed to report. But she did come back from this class saying they had provided her and she'd gotten knowledge of 6, I think it was, resolutions that she had to have the board pass before she could do her office, her work in her office. And if we didn't pass them, then it was, she was not going to be able to do her work. So we were being set up at that time for, hey, I'm not going to get these things done right. And she demanded those be executed prior to January 1. And what this would have done, had you guys executed those, it would have bypassed all the checks and balances that are established in state law and removed the tax commissioner, removed the board of commissioners from any input on fines, fees, release of property taxes, paid in error, all of those things. You would have been relinquishing all of that double checks and checks and balances that are established under state law. When the board didn't give her those demands, she falsely accused and stated that she couldn't operate her office without those. And then I think at that point, she began to attempt to punish the county about not getting those tax distributions out on time, because that's when it all, started. And the reality is, I look back at this training manual, and there is one resolution in there that's mentioned. And we did that resolution. It was a resolution to allow her to accept checks and credit cards, etc. Nowhere in there are the other 5 resolutions that she demanded, which would have given her just carte blanche to do whatever she wanted to do. She also early on tried to blame the county commissioner's IT for her phones not being answered. She said her phones were broken. She made a false claim of that. Those phones were never broken. Later on, in a meeting here, she admitted, well, we were just busy. We were going to just wait on the people that were in line.
She restated that today, that
Right.
it was the county's fault.
And so why blame us if you're not answering the phones? The phones only work if you answer the phones, okay? And the phones work the entire time. And I think I'm right with that, Mr. Richmond. Of course, what this did was result in a substantial increase in call volume to our office, to the tax assessor's office. And on one of the meetings, Mayor Glover from Greenville said, I wish she would answer the phone because we're getting the calls. And so it reaches beyond us into impacting what they're doing. And of course, the citizens become irate when they can't reach there and don't get a return call back. And of course, that creates poor customer service. Now, I will say that we never did get a call about tax commissioners in the past, but we didn't get them to that volume that we had to answer them all the time. And I found this funny. The Georgia Department of Revenue, who supposedly were meeting with this afternoon, also had to call the tax assessor's office and ask her to call them because they had been told the phones were broken and they couldn't get through. And they couldn't get through. They called multiple times, and that phone was not answered too. So they had to, Mr. Underwood had to go down and relay a message to call the Department of Revenue because they understood the phones were broken. Incredible. There were long lines, which I've never seen in my time here, out in front of the building. Okay, often it was inclement weather because this was back in January, February. I've never seen that with the past tax commissioners. They handled it, they moved right on, and they did what they needed to do. Y'all stop me if there's anything that you have any questions on. Ms. Jenkins also blocked the access to her office for other county offices, including all the other staff in the building, the cleaning staff, IT, and public buildings. And then she got into this tirade about, and this is just a few days in to taking office. She got this tirade about a postage machine. Postage machine had been in the tax commissioner's office for over 10 years without a single problem. And all of a sudden it was a major problem. It was a bigger problem than having the citizens standing out on the side of the street in the rain taken care of. This was a bigger problem. It was number one we had to get done. And we worked because what we got was emails constantly. I'm going to move this today. We explained to her, well, you know, this is a rented machine. It's a precision machine. If you roll it down the hall, put it out in the hallway, it's going to get damaged. And the county or somebody's going to have to pay for it. Did not care. Just going to do it anyway. I'm going to do this anyway. We got a long back and forth rants of emails. Beverly called, sent her the information. Hey, we're going to schedule this. I think it was going to cost us about $1,200 to move that machine. So we scheduled the call, and Beverly sent her an email that said, hey, look, we scheduled this call. We're going to move that. You know, this is what it will be. You can't move it yourself. And then, of course, she sends Beverly back an email basically saying, I don't believe what you said because I talked to someone up there and they said you could just roll it down the hall, which was not the case. So there again, you know, we're cooperating and trying to help her. Okay, what we go from there is this. Then we had to spend about $1,200, somewhere in the neighborhood, to get the people out, get the Pitney Bowes people out to move the machine. We went down, we identified a machine. She wanted it moved down to this building. You want y'all to take it down to your office. Well, it's inconvenient for the people at the courthouse. It's placed centrally where everyone could use the machine. But we didn't seem to care about the inconvenience it might apply to others. So anyway, we looked at a location in a room that was outside of her complex where she could lock the door, no one could come in. It was down the hall across from planning and zoning. Well, we looked in and there were some old boxes that she didn't know they were in there. They were old boxes of past tax information and they had actually collapsed and so what we asked was, look, we want to move these, we'll help you, we'll move them down. You got a couple vacant offices in your building, in your area, and it'll keep it secured and behind your locked door. So we would like to be able to move that there. Well, all of a sudden this machine that just had to be moved today, and that's what she would send me an email that said, I am going to move this today, highlighted. Well, all of a sudden, no, you can't use that room. This is my building. This is my office, and you can't use that room.
I want to play something
Okay.
to make it part of the record also,
Okay.
if we can hear this.
I can't because this is my building, this is my office, so we're going to have a judicial opinion about this.
I hope we do. I hope we do.
All right.
But in the interim, we're gonna move these all these records down here. And, so then we'll have a tradition. And I'm looking forward to that.
This was a threat that Mr. Gay and myself received from the tax commissioner while we were present with two deputies as well as the sheriff of Meriwether County. And in the background, you can hear the sheriff telling the tax commissioner she cannot tell us to leave her building or to leave that building.
And in the presence of all those people is when we supposedly broke into and entered the county building. And so what we have then is when we get ready to move the machine, because we have Pitney Bowes and they're going to come and they're going to charge us for a call whether we move the machine or not. So the room is already set up for Pitney Bowes. It has the proper information in there that needs. It's ready to go. Only thing it's happening in there is their old boxes that fell over the floor. So we went up and we offered to help move them. We'll move them back into the tax commissioner's office, and we'll help you with that and set them up, and then you will have control and do what you want to do with them. Well, then she had the door locked and refused to let us in. She had the key, was not going to let us into the office. So knowing that we had this coming, knowing that we needed to move this machine so badly that we were willing to risk damage on it, she decides, well, I'm not going to let you into that office. So we we kind of shimmied the door open, we got it, and we moved the files in her presence down and put them in her hallway. That's when all the screaming and hollering and threatening us with lawsuits came into play. So, it's very childish that we were trying to do what she asked us to do by moving her records into her area where she could secure them. And yet, after all this rant and tirade of email after email and accusing Beverly of not being truthful and threatening this and threatening everybody, we go try to do what she's asked us to do. Because remember, we don't work with her. We don't help her.
Right.
But in doing this, she decides, oh, no, I'm going to just be difficult again. I'm not going to let you in the room. Now, to me, that is just childish. It's foolishness. It's a waste of time and resources.
Well, Mr. Gay, let me say this. From the beginning, Mrs. Jenkins has been extremely concerned about security for her office, and rightfully so.
Yes.
That is one of the largest financial parts where actual money comes in.
That's correct.
She is 100% correct in wanting to secure her office. However, the security should be maintained on any money boxes, any safe that contains that, not locking off the public from the entire office. And that's per the Department of Revenue's latest edition of 2016, which Ms. Jenkins has stated publicly before us that is out of date and irrelevant. But it is still the current issue that the Department of Revenue issues to tax commissioners in this county. But I did want to make it for the record that she is 100% accurate in that she should secure her office, but in the financial areas only.
And what you have is a hall corridor that runs through that area. And there's individual offices on each side. So unless they're leaving things out in the hallway, which they shouldn't be doing, there's no opportunity for people to enter. Plus, we did have security cameras that monitor the hall. Okay. Then on multiple occasions, Ms. Jenkins has also, she complains about IT. IT won't help me. They won't do this. They won't do that. But on multiple occasions, she has ordered them to leave her building, which she also shares with 2 other county offices. We had a meeting with the tax commissioner, a couple of board members, IT, and our administrative staff. And she actually requested assistance from IT to help establish a new server and install equipment. She again refused to, even after this, she again refused IT access to complete the request that she had asked for. She wanted additional work authorization. She wanted to hold the people up. Mr. Richmond had notified her, we're going to have a couple guys there on this day, and they're going to come in and simply drop a couple cable lines where we could remove basically the major incoming source of the IT over to the other room, and we're dropping these cables to give you the internet service. And she refused to let us come in. But then she turns around and wants to complain about it. I'm not going to have you in here. And that's happened time and time again. One day when Mr. Richmond was off on leave, I get a call from or get email copies where she's wanting to come back in and repair some disconnections because somebody in her office unplugged 5 computer cables. Not one computer cable, 5 computer cables. And that was also a time when we talked about her getting some computer service of her own where she could manage it, and you guys approved that.
Well, we requested that she get 3 bids from different IT service companies and never did.
Never did, okay? All right, now here's another thing that's just unbelievable until you have to deal with it. One of her, on a lot of times on her campaign stuff, she was saying, well, the first thing I'm gonna do is go out there and take those Christmas lights down. I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. Well, not because of that, but we did have a prison crew, which Mr. Hines worked very hard to get brought to our county. And this prison crew has been a real blessing for us. They've done a lot of different things. So we asked the Public Works, who asked the prison crew to go down and offer to move those records we talked about earlier. If she wanted help with them, they would help her. Well, they said, no, we're not moving anything without a court order. That was what was told. Well, then the guard and the inmates did not go inside, but the guard then left, goes outside, and they start taking down the Christmas lights. Well, when they are doing that, up comes a person later identified as Tax Commissioner Jenkins. And she starts raising heck with these people, threatening them, cursing them,
Profanity.
vulgar language toward the guard, accused him of shoving citizens in line and demanded he leave, and then attempted to have him arrested. Called the sheriff's office and tried to have him arrested for working outside the building.
Let me stop and say this. It's funny to me that the language that the tax commissioner used, and we do have letters from everyone present that day, so that is an open record. I want it stated that it's funny that she comes before us today and says that she does not want to have profanity used toward her, but it's okay for her to use profanity toward someone else.
Absolutely. And then, of course, after that incident, she went and filed a report with the sheriff's office for, on this matter, and wanted to have this gentleman arrested for assault or something. Well, in that, she claimed to have watched the video where he shoved somebody who was in line. Well, that was pretty amazing since there was no video.
Right.
So she said in a police statement, I watched the video and saw him shove one of these customers.
And 2 days later requested access to be able to see the video,
Right.
which did not exist in
Which
the
did
first
not
place.
exist.
And I don't mean to interrupt. I was just chair at that point and the emails came to us. So
Please do, yes. I mean, it was much ado about nothing. The gentleman moved on and was doing other things. But here's the issue with that. That action almost cost us something that we'd worked very hard on, and I know that Commissioner Hines certainly had, to get to be able to use a Harris County inmate crew. That's a great program, and it's been very helpful. It helps us reduce costs to our citizens. But it's also created extra work for our office and Harris County to try to resolve this issue. I mean, all these inmates had to be interviewed, all the guard had to be interviewed, not only by our sheriff's office, which took them away from real crimes that they needed to be doing, but it also tied up, the Harris County warden. And in doing so, for us to be able to retain the use of that inmate crew, because we came that close to losing it, we had to agree with the warden of Harris County that we would never take that crew to work at or anywhere near the tax commissioner's office in the future. And to me, that is an embarrassment for Meriwether County caused by one person and their overreaction to something that was not true. And again, we have the reports from the inmates, and we have reports
Some
from the
video
guards.
on that one also.
Right, there's a video on that one, I think, also. Okay. Then Ms. Jenkins continues to harass the county through open record requests, threats, legal representation against the county. I mean, in the audio you played earlier, she threatens us on litigation at that point. All of this is happening while she is a full-time tax commissioner. And she stated that in her Facebook page, that's what I'm going to be. I know she has made open record request involving the water system in Hogansville. She became involved after her election in a matter where the county was trying to locate an industrial building that she was trying to oppose, and also in the road issue, which she was sanctioned for and dismissed, as an intervener in the case.
Mr. Theron, let me also place in there that, even today, she stated that we had filed a lawsuit against her office.
That's right.
That has never been the case.
Never
We
been
have
the case.
never filed that. We actually moved to allow you to have I can't remember, an injunction for access to the building. But, I have been doing this 10 years and others 8, 9 years too. There has been more times that Tax Commissioner Jenkins has come before this board and threatened judicial intervention, litigation, whatever terminology that day she wants to use to threaten us with lawsuits.
Yes, absolutely. And multiple times she's come to y'all's meeting and kind of grandstanded and talks in circles like she does today. She never really answers the question, never gets to. She always says, I want to know what you guys want. I'll provide it for you. These are things she should know. These are things that she should know. She, you guys had asked for, I can't even remember what it was right now, and she claimed she didn't know what it was. Absurd. Water line expansion, I mentioned, industrial property sales, road closure, and to me, all of these are far outside the responsibility of the tax commissioner, and I don't quite understand. And as I mentioned earlier, we received a stack of information that came here, taken off the county copier in her office and delivered here, copies of legal matters that she was working on that were addressed to Jenkins Law Firm. And also some of the open record requests that Beverly's received are Jenkins Law Firm. At a time, one of them was sent at 1:30 in the afternoon. I would have thought, we were all here working. I would have thought she would have been working too, but obviously she was doing other matters.
And I also want to throw in there that since we're talking about that, Mrs. Jenkins has, and it is open record and recorded and documented, the depositions, the lawsuit, the court time that she took, but stated in her prior to taking her seat that she would put in a full day's work. And it actually states in one of the oaths that she takes, one of the 3, that she will put in a full day's work for a full day's pay. I wanted to ask Mrs. Jenkins today what she planned to do to pay the taxpayers of this county back the money that she had continued to receive as a salaried person while she was out doing depositions and doing court cases.
Right. And most of those, or some of those, back against Meriwether County.
Right, but that is an oath, one of the 3 that she takes. She states that she will be doing that.
Right. As we talked about earlier, the tax disbursements checks have been late numerous times and are not in compliance with state law. And we hear so often, so much, particularly from them, about following that law. I'm going to do the right thing. I'm going to follow the law, but she doesn't follow the law. We mentioned also about the post-dated checks received as much as 3 weeks later. Multiple occasions, these things were delivered unsigned. And again, it's a waste of time and effort. We have to track it back down. The 2021 tax bills, I don't believe were mailed in compliance with state law. I received my bill, and I just live up the road, about 10 days or so after the deadline for mailing. And a lot of other people reported they didn't get theirs from 10 days to 2 weeks. The bill didn't have a postmark on the outside of the envelope, so couldn't prove when it was mailed. But sometimes mail can be slow, but it's not slow for everybody to the tune of 10 days to 2 weeks. And I've checked that with multiple people. Again, out of security, and I do understand the security of office. She's changed the locks on the doors multiple times. And she's also frosted the front doors so no one can see into that public office. I find that kind of, concerning, what's going on, especially when I do it at taxpayer expense. Here's another thing that was kind of unusual too. She refused the county cleaning crews access to her office through the interior building doors, and that's through the hallway. Insisted that they contact her to be allowed to come in, and they take their carts and their cleaning equipment outside through the public entrance where everybody's standing trying to get in, and come in that way to clean.
Mr. Thayer, may I also state, and, I'm sorry to keep interrupting you.
No,
It's
you're
just
not.
things that I want to say. When this happened and she stopped, we were going in every morning to every office and fumigating for COVID so that it would not be there. This stopped. Shortly after that, her office contracted COVID at some point. Her husband, who is a state house representative, went to social media on his private page and stated that the Board of Commissioners is the reason that the tax commissioner's office is now closed and infected with COVID-19. He stated that the Board of Commissioners thought that these employees were nothing but pawns when they were actually sisters, wives, daughters, and all of this. So it's not only the tax commissioner that did this. We were blamed by a state house representative on his personal Facebook page stating that this is our fault.
Absolutely, you sure were. And of course, I'm talking here about cleaning, but there was also the fact that, as you said, we were going in, we were spraying in the mornings, in the hallways, trying to clean. We did it in every building, the courtrooms, the courthouse, this building, everywhere. We had no problem whatsoever. And she stopped that. First of all, she said, well, that there's something in the stuff y'all spraying that's, smells bad or not good. Well, it didn't impact anybody else. You just need to let it dry before you went in. Thus, reason to go in the morning. But you're right. Representative Jenkins got on social media and blamed the commissioners for this. And it's shame on him for doing that. She wanted us to give her the security codes where she could basically run the security for the building. She shares with 2 other departments. And we said, no, we're not going to do that. She also wanted us to remove the camera in the hallway near her office or shut down the building security system altogether. We offered her a solution. We said, look, why don't you, if you want to monitor your area, monitor the inside of your offices, we'll help you put in a small security system that you can monitor on your phone or wherever, and it won't be that much money, and we'll help you do that. And then, of course, she refused to do that. She did not want to deal with that. The phones not being answered, our office, of course, had to field the calls from the public asking why. The impact of our workload, having to answer the calls, and as I said, the assessor's office, they got a lot of calls. And also, even the city of Greenville got calls. And I'm sure our other offices got calls as well. There again, the phones were working at all times. And also our office, again, this impacts our workload because it's not getting done. We've constantly received complaints from citizens who cannot get help for their tax matters from her office. One such issue involved 2 citizens who were seeking information on a car tag and title. Not having time for the citizens, Ms. Jenkins escorted them out of the building and told them to go to the courthouse if they wanted to look up information and look it up themselves. And the information and answers she did provide was incorrect. And if you give me just a minute, I'll find that document. I'll go over that for you. I got a call from this gentleman, and the information's right here. He had gone into the tax commissioner's office. His sister had given him a car. No money exchanged, just a family gift. She gave him the car. He went in and he wanted to be able to continue it under the old program of just paying the taxes every year, which was cheaper for him. And the law allowed him to be able to do that. Instead, they made him pay for the TABT and re-register the car, etc. Bottom line was it cost him an extra $400 to do the tag this way. He went home. This man's an accountant. He has an MBA from Emory. And so he's not a dummy. He went home and researched it and found out, hey, this is not right. So we called back and said, hey, tax commissioner's office, I've researched this and found out that y'all overcharged me, and I have I'd like to come and get my money back. I've got the document here, which I sent him, by the way. Which he didn't have it. It's a document where he signed showing that GBAT was the form you have to do that. So anyway, he was told on the phone, according to him, yeah, come back up, we'll just correct it. And then from there, let me catch up. And this is his email to me. He said he came to the tax commissioner's office to transfer title on a Honda Odyssey, and he paid $452. And I think the bill should have been $34. Okay. He was told the refund was there, he could come up. And when they followed up on the phone call, his mother was assured that in fact would be the case, and that I should simply bring the MV-16 affidavit, which I just showed you guys, and the refund would be processed. He says, when I went to the office, I was told that was no longer the case because the tax commissioner had decided against a refund. So I went back to the office with my mom to discuss the reasoning behind the decision with Commissioner Jenkins. He says, after the visit, the disappointment and frustration I had with making a $400 overpayment took a backseat to Ms. Jenkins' unbelievably rude, unprofessional, and disgusting behavior and demeanor. We were shown into her office. As we walked by, she just sat there to say, what do you want? Didn't get up and greet him. There were chairs there. He started to move something out and move it over, and she says, no, wait. And so they just stood there and talked. And she said, he recounted the mentioned fact, he was going to get the dollars back, and she replied according to him, yeah, that's too bad. We can't do anything about it. And he said, he asked, why can't you? And she said, because he said there are a couple of tag offices in DeKalb County, like DeKalb County, that said it would be no problem to bring it in. And of course, she said, well, DeKalb doesn't know all the facts. And he asked, what facts am I missing? And she said, there's a 24-hour period where such refunds can take place. And he said, well, and she said it was completely illegal for her to refund it after that 24 hours. And then he said, well, can you show me the statute on that? And to which she pointed to the entrance of the building and said, when you go out that door, there's a big old building over there with lots of law books. Go research it. And he says, are you kidding me? She said, when you go out that door, there's a big old building there. Again, go research it. And apparently, what she did was escort him to the door. And he was very upset about this. He hasn't come back and asked about his $400 because he said I was more upset about the way I was treated than anything else. And she followed him out of the building. And he said when he stopped, she would stop. And he asked her, are you walking us out? And she said, didn't really respond. So they left.
And we also need to point out the fact that his mother, who is 75 to 80 years old, was with him and was treated this way at the same time.
Absolutely. Both of them were walked out. And these are citizens of our community that lived here, I think, told me they run business here for 50 years. And it was a legitimate question. But, there again, and then here's this. We had to take up our time to try to deal with this because she wouldn't. Well, here's the email that I got back from Ms. Jenkins. Of course. I apologize. It says, Ms. Jenkins, I received an email from a gentleman concerning the amount of fees paid in a transfer of a car he received. He wanted to continue paying for the tag under the old ad valorem system, just as his sister had done it. Well, the information in his email appears he was placed in the TVAT program, which resulted in a higher initial fee. His desire is to remain in the ad valorem tax program. I will send you a copy of the affidavit he sent to me. He is asking for a refund of extra fees for the auto placed back under the old system. And I say, thank you for your cooperation in the matter. If I can be of assistance, please let me know. And
I think we could be here for days.
we could. And it's back to you guys. Should anybody be, please advise that if you receive a message such as the one that's below, that you include the individual's contact information, whether it was on the form that I sent. And of course, she again is despite the fact that we try to help her, she doesn't care. She just really turns around. That's why to tax us of the matter. I mentioned already the issue of the 5 different computer lines that they unplugged. Deadlines, when she sends us an email, she gives us deadlines, or she will, I guess, litigate. She ignores the deadlines herself. Covered that already. There's a constant attempt to create controversy, make excuses, and blame others. We can see that in the course of the emails. She comes in, as I said earlier, grandstands, never really says anything, but wants to debate over issues that she's kind of manifested in her mind. But this is one of the things that I find most interesting. It's just crazy. She was very ugly to our IT director. And so she decided, well, I'll do a half-hearted apology. So she did. She apologized, basically saying, well, I apologize for my behavior. If my behavior for you was not good, and I don't really think it was. And by the way, if it was your fault that I was ugly to you. And I'm like, his fault. And this is a gentleman that, he is one of the most beloved people in the county by all the departments. No one has a problem with Skip. And yet, I've apologized, I don't believe I was ugly to you, but if I was, it was your fault. And we have an email to that effect. She made the false accusation, I think, as y'all alluded to earlier, that the commissioners had filed litigation over her, put it on her Facebook, was not true. They've taken to social media to, criticize the county. There's several other issues too. Talk about the property litigation. We have another issue that involved a boat that was sold by a person in December of 2017, I think it was. We were provided information on this bill of sale that was signed at the request of the person who bought the boat. He was in Florida. He asked the guy that transferred it, just simply signed my name to it. Provided that with us, showing that indeed that was the case. He had sold the boat. Well, he came in and he paid the tax because he does it in real estate and housing, and so he closed he had to close on a piece of property. So they were showing outstanding tax bills. He came in, even though he didn't own it, he paid it. It's about $455 or somewhere in that neighborhood. So he paid it. Then he came and asked for a refund, saying, look, here's the information. I sold the boat. Tax laws are based on January 1, and I sold it in December. Okay. So from there, that information was provided, and per law, we brought that back before the Board of Commissioners, give you guys the information of that. And then you voted to refund that and waive the penalties on that tax that had been collected because it was not taxable and due to that person or in this county on January 1. Well, we get refusal to do that. Here's a letter that I wrote on September the 15th. It says, hey, please be advised this has happened. And then I get a letter back on the 17th saying I've received your letter. However, the letter is insufficient to allow what you're requesting. I don't understand why. I would ask her that question. Why is it insufficient? In the event the proper procedures are followed by the commissioners, I will gladly do as necessary. Well, you guys had voted on that. Ask us to send that. And in the meantime, it says, my duty to ensure that ethical safeguards are in place. And I would invite you to review the code sections. And she goes on to say, I'm requested through open record the information that was referenced in the letter that led the Board of Commissioners to believe that this was paid erroneously. But we had provided her that, part of the attachments. I'm requesting the minutes where the board heard this request. We provided her that. And I'm unaware of what your role is in the matter. So some of it is me. I don't want to do it because you asked me to do it. I didn't ask her to do it. I was conveying the request to the Board of Commissioners. It says, if you are the county administrator, please identify yourself correctly. What difference does that make? I have been working for you guys, was the administrator, I'm no longer the administrator. We have a very capable administrator now, but I still help out and I help her out with things sometimes. And so basically the line is that she refused and has to this day refused to refund those dollars. Now, what that's resulted in is, one other thing, after that, this is a pattern too, because we've already tried to have the correctional officer arrested. So after that, Tax Commissioner Jenkins goes to the sheriff and tries to have this gentleman arrested for fraud. And she talks about all this, and the sheriff says, look, this is ridiculous. We looked into it, but we're not doing anything with it. Then it gets over to the district attorney's office. So here's the law enforcement needing to do real things. Here's the district attorney's office who's dealing with all these crimes, and we're investigating over whether or not a gentleman made fraud on a $455 tax bill. All right. We have wasted tremendous amount of times on this. The district attorney's office called the guy that bought the boat, and he said, yes, I bought the boat. I was in Florida. I wouldn't want to drive back up. I told the guy to sign my name to it. Okay. Well, there's been multiple requests to have this done, to have this refund. You guys authorized it. Not the tax commissioner's job to deny or whatever. The Board of Commissioners, who's the governing authority, asked this. What we now have based on that is litigation. Okay. There has been a lawsuit that has been filed, and this lawsuit is going to cost the taxpayers of this county possibly a lot of money. We already have a lot of attorney fees involved. We've already had to get our, association, our attorneys to involve themselves in this matter. I think since there's two, different, really three parties, him, the county, tax commissioner, there's two attorneys that'll have to be hired from the ACCG side to represent this, all over the $455, which the district attorney has said there was no problem with, which the sheriff has said no problem with, which the guys admitted he bought the boat and asked the guy to sign it, and it's been approved by this Board of Commissioners.
And let me stop you right there and say, everything that Mr. Gay has stated is documented and is open records. So there is nothing that is being said that is not an open record that we cannot prove 100%.
Absolutely. And I would invite anybody who has any doubt to come by and look at it, and let's review it. So now we're facing, what are we going to do with this lawsuit? We're likely to lose. I do not know. I would like to have asked Ms. Jenkins, since she's been here today, what was her motivation for not approving this? We had asked for releases and followed this very same procedure before, while she was in office, and those taxes got released. Okay, what's the difference this time? I would like to ask her if it was any way politically motivated, because in some of her Facebook pages, she has taken this gentleman and she's done everything she could to defame him, claim he owes taxes, he's fraud. What's the motivation here? Is the motivation to do what's right for the taxpayers, or is it some other motivation? Since she stated he's a political opponent. This whole thing, we're not here. I don't care. I know she said, well, you had my opponent's sign in the yard. Yes, I did. And I'd put it up again today. And very honestly, if her opponent had won, we wouldn't even be having this meeting today. This all would be out the door, we'd have jobs, Bill would be getting his money on time, we could do other things. Our administrative staff spent about 3 or 4 days, the last 3 or 4 days, working late, coming in early, getting all this documentation together, all for an issue that should not even be here. And to me, it's shameful. It just reeks of not doing the right thing, not caring about the taxpayers, but instead, we want to do about what we want to do, and we're going to punish who we can punish, and and we don't care. It's all about politics. And to me, if you support a candidate, fine. If you don't support a candidate, fine. That's the right that we all as citizens have. But you know what? Whether you support the candidate or not, when you get into office and you get elected, work together. And this board and our county staff and everybody has tried to work with this person. And yes, the communication is needed. It's a two-way street. You cannot communicate with somebody who will not listen, who is always right, who talks in circles and blames everything on everybody else, and takes no responsibility for their own shortcomings.
Let me state, that was seen here firsthand today when I, as one of the seated commissioners, asked questions. It's continuously like that.
And to the time when citizens are standing out in the rain and cold weather, trying to get their car tagged, she's worried and trying to fight with us and make accusations over a postage machine. Come on. She's also trying to arrest, which is beyond her powers. She could not arrest. There was no victim, no crime, is what the sheriff's office said. But she's dealing with that instead of trying to deal with the citizens standing on the sidewalk, having to wait to get into her office and pay their tax bill or pay their tags. It's absurd. And when this first came about, she talked about the lawsuit, we did talk about this. It was approximately a year ago, because 3 months in, we were having the same problem. Here, a year later, we're having the same problem again. This is absurd.
Well, not again, continuously.
Continuous, you're right. And we have not resolved it. And I think Mr. Richmond would testify that the phones have always been working at that location, not been out. You have attempted to provide her with any assistance in IT, and you've been refused multiple times the entrance.
Well, there are multiple postings on her Meriwether Tax Commissioner Facebook from citizens requesting that she provide them with a number that actually allows them to get through to her office and speak to someone. There's multiple posts on that Facebook page.
Absolutely.
And some have been deleted, though.
Yes, some were deleted after she received the letter from us.
And there's multiple citizens. We get the calls all the time. Hey,
Well, we have some of those
about it.
screenshots.
We do. So
Regarding that case you were referring to on the refund, it's also my understanding that she has encouraged or told the attorney that this is the county's fault and that we should be found at fault about the refund.
and
for the
she's in essence
citizen.
saying,
Sue the county.
you sue the county.
Right.
Sue the county. And we're talking about $455 is owed back to the movie. Again, just absolutely ridiculous. I've been working in local government for a long time, decades and decades. And I've never quite seen this. I've seen people that had quirky things, and we didn't always get along and with everybody. We had our differences and differences of opinion, but we could sit down without, talking around in circles and come to things. And at the end of the day, I think everybody was truly interested in doing what was right for the taxpayer. I don't see that here. I see what we're trying to do is whatever can, put up a cloud of smoke to blame what I'm not doing on somebody else.
I feel what we see, and this is me, I feel that we are seeing an inability to separate the fact that she is an attorney and a tax commissioner.
And I will say that we would have been willing, Bill offered, I offered, everybody's offered, Michelle's offered, over and over. We'll help you any way we can. We'll help you. We're not trying to take over. Because you help doesn't mean you take over. I'm willing to help Bill wherever I can with his office and his work, but I'm not finance director. And I will say this is not a personality thing. because where she left off with me as administrator in her snarkiness and her whatever, she's taken right back up with Michelle. I thought, well, maybe this will be good. But Michelle, I think you would say that the emails you received from her and the feedback has been unbelievably, I mean, if you want to comment on that.
There have definitely been difficult communications.
And I think in the beginning, trying to work with her, the emails were a little different and more even keel. But after we had to enforce or point out things is when they became an issue.
That is correct.
So,
Also, I received an email from Ms. Jenkins after I was elected for chairman for this year. And just as she expressed today, she did say, hope we can work together, whatever. And anybody knows me, I'll do anything I can to get along and keep down conflict. That's not what I like. And that was my response to her. And when we had the cyber attack, I constantly communicated with her about what was going on, what we were doing. But she would email me and ask me questions. I would email back and ask questions. And to this day, I've never gotten a response to my email. But I've always responded to hers, with the exception of the last one that we received 45 minutes before the deadline of the reports. I did not respond to that one because, I mean, it was over with then. And I did not respond. And it wasn't really anything. It was just like, I still don't know what you want, but it was clearly written in the email.
Well, I think today reflects part of that too, Madam Chair, when she only wants to be able to ask questions instead of her responding and answering anyone else's questions.
well, it's just shameful. It's embarrassing for Meriwether County. And I'm telling you, people outside of this county know and hear about this and they laugh about it.
They do.
It's shameful. I'm embarrassed to, to have to hear that. And, yes, we got the financial issues. That's the major issue with it. But with all of this other rambling nonsense we have to deal with, I really question the accuracy of the information. Now, I think she's got some pretty good staff now that's kind of holding things together. But, all we want her to do is do her job and stop making life difficult for everybody else. We don't have this problem with any of the other elected officials, our boards, whatever. You guys have been great to work with. You've got good relationships with all the cities. We all work together good. And there's one common denominator that creates all the controversy, and she was here today. So I'll be glad to answer your question.
Well, I was just going to ask, any of the board members have any questions or comments they'd like to make?
I think just a quick comment, Madam Chair. It becomes old hat when you've lived with this for 15 months. As we listen to this, be regurgitated, we go through it again. Yeah, well, you can't argue with the facts because you were there. You've seen this, you know about that. But it's just old. You just would like to move on, start a new day, start a new beginning, and just move and take whatever action we need to take.
Anybody else have any comments? Ms. Irizarry, I forgot, do you have anything else to?
Ma'am.
Well, Madam Chair, since no one has anything else to say, I would like to put a motion. Yes, we can.
Read what
Yes, go ahead.
the basis for the information?
Right.
think
Well, I wanted to reiterate that this
Okay.
meeting is for that 10 or
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I would like to read it if that's okay, if the attorney says. That's okay, this is the law, okay, and it is current. And this is current through the 2021 regular and special sessions of the General Assembly. Accountability of tax collectors and tax commissioners to county government authority, effective failure to account, a point of successor. This is what it's about. It shall be the duty of the tax collector or tax commissioner to render annually to the county government authority an account of his official actions respecting the county taxes and funds, and to make his books, vouchers, accounts, and all things pertaining to his office available for inspection by the county government authority. The failure or refusal of any tax collector or tax commissioner to render the account required by subsection A of this code section, after being so notified by the government authority of the county, shall constitute malpractice in office. Conviction for such malpractice shall subject the offender to removal from office. Pending the continuance of the failure or refusal of the tax collector or tax commissioner to render the account after the notice by the governing authority shall suspend the tax collector or tax commissioner from duty, and an interim tax collector or tax commissioner shall be appointed as provided in Code Section 48-5-211 to collect the county taxes during the suspension and until the question of removal can be passed upon and decided upon by the proper tribunal. Proper bonds as provided by law shall be taken from the person so appointed. Is that it? So that was what gave us the direction of what we could ask for, because we were not getting the information we were needed. We were not getting our money. We were very close to having to go into to tax anticipation notice, which we have not had to do for years. But our bank account was just about down to nothing. And the school board had received their money, but we did not receive ours. And I think that was a question Ms. Irizarry asked.
And the tax commissioner made that statement that she had given it.
That was by her own statement.
Right, it's on video too, that
Yes,
she had given
made that
it.
statement at our last meeting, that she had rendered a check to the Board of Education, but did not send one to the county. I don't know how you pick and choose, but I just wanted to preface what led to this point into this meeting.
And Madam Chair, at this point, I would like to move that this Board of Commissioners find that Tax Commissioner Jenkins' failure to provide the requested accounting for fiscal year 2021 constitutes malpractice in office, and furthermore, that this board find the evidence presented today shows that she has failed to fulfill the duties required of her office. Accordingly, I move that this board vote to remove Tax Commissioner Jenkins from office pursuant to the authority given to us by OCGA 48-5-140, and that upon her removal, it be requested to the probate court immediately appoint a replacement to her office, and that is in the form of a motion.
All right, we hear the motion. Do we have a second?
I will offer a second.
All right, all in favor? Do we have discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, we can.
You had already opened that up. You already opened it
Yeah,
for
but I mean, we had
discussion.
to have discussion after the motion and the second. Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
To the board and to Mr. Gay and to our county administrator, thank you so much for bringing this information to our attention. I think it was very well done and well presented. I know it took a lot of time from you all to even bring this information. I appreciate what Madam Chair has done and Vice Chair is bringing this to the board. I think it definitely needed to be brought to the attention of the board and to the citizens. My only concern about the statement was just made is that as an elected official, we are elected by the citizens of Meriwether County. There are times when, as an elected official, you are here to serve. You're not here to be served. That is my personal opinion. And I think it's imperative that you do your job as efficiently as you can based on your ability. There has been some information brought today that I think is very noticeable, that there definitely needs to be some change. There's something in a different direction that needs to go. I truly believe that. But I also believe in our Constitution that allows the citizens to elect who they want to represent them. Now, it is the citizens who also have the choice to decide at any given point, depending on their time of being in office, whether that person is a good fit or not good fit. And the citizens have that authority to make that decision, whether it's every 4 years or every 2 years. So I do want to make it clear that I have a difficult time with what's just been said, simply because we all here serve at the pleasure of other people voting for us. And I'm sure there's several people who have felt that some of our decisions have not been at the best and may have disagreed with how we have handled things. However, I think this is what democracy is all about, that people have a choice to vote on who they want to represent them. I think we've given, based on the information that's been presented today, the citizens probably know more now and have a better understanding of what's been going on for the past year and a half. And so in saying that, I think there should be another method in moving forward. If this board, I don't know legally, and the attorney can clarify that, do we truly have that authority to ask for that? And if that is the case, then I can understand that. But I still think, as citizens and as a representative who has been elected by the people, that this is a decision that the citizens should take on. That's just my personal opinion. Thank you.
Let the attorney answer first, and I want to make a comment.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't write the law, that's statute.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I certainly agree. The citizens, they could do a recall or just not re-elect. But I think the difference here is because the very lifeblood of this county is affected here. It's the money. That's the only way we operate. And I think that is probably why this provision is there in under Georgia law, is that you got to have some way, because if we don't have the money, we can't operate. And I think that's the difference then, like you're one of five and we're each just one of five. She's one of one. And I think that's the difference.
And thank you for sharing that. And once again, I agree. I'm not disagreeing with you. But I also feel that, democracy is something that everyone cherish, and this is what makes America so great, is that we have an option to vote on who we want to represent us. And if those individuals are not doing their jobs, we have the right to have them recalled, or we have the right to vote them out. So I just want to make it very clear to everyone that we live in a country, and we're so blessed to live in a country that gives us this opportunity. I'm not disputing any of the information that's been brought to us. Once again, I think to Mr. Gay and to our county administrator, to build the information you all have provided has just been phenomenal. It has opened my eyes to a lot of things as well. But I do think that it's difficult for me to hear that we're at this stage. And I'm very disappointed that the tax commissioner was not able to stay and to address these more directly. This is a very important meeting. Unfortunately, I was out of town and I was told about the meeting, and I made effort to get back in order to be here. But once again, I just want everyone to understand that democracy has its purpose in our society, and it allows those who want to run, those who want to serve. But even at the end of the day, once you take that oath, you're supposed to respect the oath and do the job. So I'm not taking any of that away. I just want us to realize that the citizens made a vote, and I think the citizens should have a decision on whether or not that individual stay in that role or they have a recall for that individual. That's just the point I want to make. Thank you all.
And I don't disagree. We're a little bit different circumstance here. So we've had a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor?
Madam Chair, let me make
Okay,
one
I'm
statement.
sorry.
I'm hearing the thing about the citizens, and I've been in office almost 8 years. This is my 8th year. I have never had as many calls about a county official, and I mean poignant calls, almost demanding you do something at this point, that I have had about our tax commissioner. So I think they are speaking to us.
That's true.
So I would just like to have that in.
And I do want to state that the motion to remove is specifically under this OCGA and the failure of the tax commissioner to provide this board with the requested information that was due by March the 22nd. That is the purpose of this particular law and why I made this motion.
Mr. Commissioner Threadgill, just clarify again. So the motion is to have the tax commission removed based on the OCCG law. Is that just a time frame there, or I need some more clarity, maybe the attorney.
Beth read the,
There's not much clarity in it.
right, Beth read it and
I'm
what it
sorry.
stated.
I'm not trying to be fainted, but may I see it?
We're
May I
just going
see
to
it?
make a copy of it for you if you
Thank
want
you.
to, because like I said, it doesn't say a lot beyond that.
But under this, it is under the fact that the failure or refusal of the tax commissioner to provide said documents to the Board of Commissioners when requested. That is what I made the motion to remove, and that is what the law allows us to make
And
that
let me
motion
go back
by.
and say too, it also says upon failure to provide these documents, we shall suspend, shall. It didn't say may, will, it says shall. And it doesn't even say you have to have this time in order to give her a time to answer. Our attorney suggested we do that in good faith. And we did that, and she had the date, and we know that her attorney told us that he wasn't told till Friday. One of the attorneys, I don't know which one, wasn't told till Friday about this, but she knew it all week. So we went one step further than it actually requires, because according to the law, we didn't have to ask for any information, give her an opportunity to explain anything. Our attorneys, our legal staff thought that would be a better option for us to do and try to get an answer to it, but
And
Like I said, she didn't
thank
say.
you for the clarity. This is a difficult one
It
for me.
is.
This is a very difficult one for me. But thank you all for once again sharing and giving more in-depth information. Thank you.
And again, I know there's been a lot of conversation. Since this motion, do I need to make the motion again just so it's clear? No? All right.
I don't think so. Do you have any comment or anything? Okay. All right.
So there is a motion and a
Motion
second.
and a second. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, motion carries.
So we will need to, at this point, request that the probate judge make that.
That appointment,
Replacement.
I believe so, but we'll let legal
Right.
help us with that. Is there any other information that we need to go over? Do we have a need for executive session? No. All right, hearing none, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So maybe.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor? We are adjourned, 11:34. Thank you.